Okay, this is Nano back again doing her reading. Her voice is all back. So I picked Curious George Goes to the Zoo. That sounded like a fun thing to do. Let's see. This is Curious George. He is a really good little monkey and always very curious. Today, George was feeling very excited. The man with the yellow hat was taking him to the zoo. Have you all been to the zoo? I bet you have. As they drove, the man explained to George that this wasn't just any zoo that they were going to visit. It's called the Wild Animal Park, and all of the animals just roam around freely. They're not in cages. When they arrived, George saw a huge banner. George looked up at it, but he couldn't read the words. It says, "Come celebrate our baby rhino's first birthday." They're having a birthday party for a baby rhino. A friendly zookeeper explained, "It's an extra special day here at the Wild Animal Park," she said. "It's our baby rhino's first birthday, and we're going to have a party for her later." A party? This was going to be a wonderful trip to the zoo. Curious George was all excited. George tried to walk into the park where the animals were, but the zookeeper stopped him. "You can't go in there," she said. "To explore this zoo, you have to ride in one of our special cars." She pointed to a huge car. It didn't have any roof on it. Oh my, what fun this was going to be. George and his friends climbed aboard, and the car drove off and into the park. I don't think he's supposed to be up like that, do you? Soon they were in the midst of the Wild Animal Park. "Look over there," said the zookeeper. "There's our pride of lions." That's what you call a group of lions, a pride. "We have a large family of lions here." And then George pointed in the other direction. "Yes, George," said the zookeeper, "I see giraffes too. Their tall necks help them eat leaves from the trees. And there are 2 ostriches running in our direction." George was happy to see so many amazing animals. The zoo drove past a small pond and the pink flamingos. Ask your mommy about the pink flamingo that Grandpa made for her when she was a little girl. Pink flamingos waded into the water. Their heads bobbed up and down as they walked on spindly legs. "The flamingos turned pink because they eat so many tiny shrimp," said the zookeeper. But George really wasn't listening. He had never seen flamingos before, and he was curious how these flamingos were moving. He leaned in the back of the zoo car as far as he could take a look, but then, what happened? He wasn't careful. George lost his balance, and then he fell kerplunk right out of the zoo car. His friend didn't notice that he had fallen, and George ran quickly as a little monkey could towards the pond. The flamingos bobbed their heads and lifted their feet one at a time. It looked like they were dancing, so George started to dance with them. Suddenly, the water in the pond started to move. When the hippo popped its head up under the water, what a surprise! George stopped dancing just to take a look. The hippo opened his wide, huge mouth as if yawning, and George opened his mouth wide too. It was fun acting like a hippo. Just then George noticed that something was rustling in the reeds near the pond. George is always curious, and he wanted to see what was there. In an instant he jumped over the reeds and poked his nose inside and saw a baby rhino. It's the one whose party it's going to be. The cute little rhino was so cute, and she looked a little bit sad and a little bit lonely. George doesn't like them to look lonely and sad. He likes it when his friends are all happy. George wanted to make that baby rhino feel happy again, and he thought. Maybe the baby rhino would like the flamingo dance. He jumped and bobbed his head and danced his feet up and down. The baby rhino peeked her head out of the reeds so that she could watch. George danced more, and the baby rhino walked all the way out of the reeds. She was curious too. They were having so much fun, George didn't notice what was behind him. The zookeeper stomped over to George. She did not look happy. The man with the yellow hat was running behind her. "You are a naughty little monkey," said the zookeeper. "You were supposed to stay in the car. You and your friend will have to go right now." George walked to the man's side. He waved goodbye to the baby rhino. The man and the zookeeper turned to see if George he was waving to. "The baby rhino," said George. "Why, we've been looking for her all day. She got separated from her mother." The zookeeper was very happy to have found the baby rhino. George was glad to see the zookeeper looking happy again. He and the man started walking towards the exit. The zookeeper ran to stop them. "Thank you for finding our baby rhino, and it just in time for her birthday party. Would you like to join us for some cake?" George jumped with glee. He had forgotten all about the party, and he loved cake. The man followed George and followed the zookeeper and the baby rhino back to the zoo headquarters. The rhino's mother was waiting for her there and was very glad to see her baby. The zookeeper brought out a special birthday cake that was shaped like a rhinoceros. George had never seen such a cake like that before. "You can have the first piece, George, since you found our missing baby rhino. I also have a special treat just for you." And she placed a bunch of bananas right in front of him. George was very happy to have his tasty bananas, but he also saved plenty of room for some birthday cake. The end.